I don't know how to tell you this, but for the last week, I've been waking up in the middle of the night around 3 o'clock with you on my mind. And I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm supposed to tell you that you're supposed to be a Christian artist and you're supposed to sing songs about Jesus. This is 5 days after I've just prayed a prayer. God, send me a sign, and whatever it is you want, I will do it. And my manager, who's an unbeliever, has been waking up in the middle of the night to tell me that I'm supposed to be a Christian artist and sing songs about Jesus. I don't know about you, but God can't be more clear.
Drew, I'm excited to hang out with you, man. Right before we hit record, I think we were saying like we both kind of loosely know each other. Like you were mentioning that you bought the Dad Tired book a couple of years ago. And then I was telling you how one of our Dad Tired guys is a fan of yours and your music and was like, you have to have Drew on. So I kind of just reached out cold, but I'm stoked to get to know you, but I, in full transparency, don't know your stories.
Yeah.
I'm excited to sit down with you, man. But for the audience who may not be familiar with you, tell us who you are, what you're up to these days.
Yeah, my name is Drew Parker. I'm a singer-songwriter. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I've lived here 10 years. Grew up outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I've always had a desire for music. I grew up actually singing Southern gospel music when I was a child, and but when I turned about 18, obviously I thought I was much bigger than that. I wanted, to go chase all the things. And so, and I also have loved country music my whole life. And so, I knew that, to maybe be successful in country music, I needed to move to Nashville. And so in 2015, I packed my stuff up and, I was 24 at the time and packed my truck up and moved to Nashville to chase this dream I've had. And I've been here 10 years.
Just to get some context, like when you moved to Nashville, were you married? Like you're married now? You have kids now?
Yeah, I'm married with 2 daughters now.
Oh, sweet.
Yep, and
Okay.
so I had just when I moved to Nashville, I had met my wife 9 months prior to moving to Nashville.
Okay.
I had just gotten out of a longer relationship that I think kinda held me back from really chasing my dream, and so after that kinda broke off, I was like, "I'm moving to Nashville." I had made up my mind, "I'm gonna go do it," and then I met my wife, and I was like, "Oh, no, what am I gonna do?" But I told her, you know, straight up front, like, I have a desire to do this, to move to Nashville, to chase this dream, and I don't wanna wake up when I'm 30 years old and wonder, "What if I had done it?"
Yeah.
And so I was very open and honest, like and so I said, "Let's just kinda take this as it goes," and so, man, we dated and, fell in love, and I ultimately moved to Nashville, and, you know, I realized that I wanted to be with her, and so it wasn't long after, I had moved to Nashville that I proposed to her. I think it was we met in December of 2014, and then I moved to Nashville September of 2015, and then we were engaged the next January of 2016. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. So
and then
pretty
got
quick.
married that June. So yeah, we
Wow.
dated a year and a half, um, well, before we got married.
Yeah. And give us an update. Maybe all of our listeners know, and I'm like the ignorant one here, so I
Yeah.
apologize. But like, where are you at now in country music? How did that
Yeah.
turn out after moving
Yeah.
to Nashville?
So, I moved here in
It's okay if
2015.
you brag a little bit. By the way, I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
I'm teeing you up to brag a little bit, so you can
Okay.
go ahead and tell us some of the
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the stuff
Yeah.
you've done.
So I moved here in 2015, started writing songs, and I had gotten some advice from someone when I moved here. Um, Find someone you believe in more than you believe in yourself and write songs with them. And I was like, okay. So I started looking for this person, who was it that I was going to, and so I started creating a friend group. And I had always heard like in Nashville, you kind of have success with your group of friends. Like you come up together. And one of those guys that I met very early on is I actually met him before I moved to Nashville. He was one of the guys that convinced me to move to Nashville. Is a guy named Luke Combs. Um, and he was, before I was living in Nashville, he was like, you should come up and let's write songs together. And I was like, okay. And so I started writing songs with him and then ultimately moved to Nashville about 9 months, 8 months after I met him. And so he was one of the first people I was writing songs with. And then that kept going. And then 5 years, and to get to Nashville, I have a degree in radiology. And so I was working at a hospital here in Nashville. And I would write songs during the day, and I would work kind of the late night shift at the hospital.
What were you doing in radiology? Just out
I
of
was
curiosity.
just anything that they needed me to, mainly taking x-rays, but I would
Okay.
work in, the cath lab or stuff like
Wow.
that.
Wow. Crazy.
Which is what I was doing. That's what I was doing in the hospital in my hometown before I moved to Nashville. I worked in the cath lab, and so we did like heart catheterizations and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when I got to Nashville, I was basically working x-ray in the emergency room.
Hmm.
And so I was doing that, would do that at night, write songs during the day. And I had made a deal with my boss at the hospital and basically made this deal during my interview for the job. She was like, "What brings you to Nashville?" And I was like, "Well, it's not this job, honestly." She was like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" I was like, "I have a desire to write and sing songs and be an artist." And um, I was like, "But I need this job." And
Hmm.
so she basically offered me the job on the spot. And I told her jokingly, if I ever have a number one song, I'm going to quit. And she was like, "All right." So
She
November.
probably was like
Sorry.
you and everybody else, dude. Like
Yes, I
everybody.
know, 100%. So March the 22nd of 2020, 5 years into Nashville, I had been working at this hospital. I had my first number one song called "Homemade" by Jake Owen. Called my boss, say, "Hey, I'll be there tomorrow. That'll be my last shift." And so March 23rd, the very next day, it was a Monday. I'm standing in my bedroom. I'm putting my scrubs on, getting ready to go work my last shift at the hospital. My wife walks in the bedroom and tells me that she is in labor.
Oh
And
my
so I
gosh.
had to call my boss back and say, "I'm not coming to work." And so in a matter of 72 hours, I had my first number one, quit my day job, and became a dad for the very first time.
Today's episode of the Dad Tired Podcast is brought to you by the NLT Kids Go Bible. If you've ever tried to get your kids to actually open their Bible, not just use it as a nightstand or have it sit on their bookcase, you know the struggle. That's why I love the NLT Kids Go Bible. The Bible is designed to help your kids want to engage in God's Word. It uses the New Living Translation, which means it's accurate and it's actually understandable for kids. It has big fonts, color-coded verses, and full-color pages that feel inviting to them instead of intimidating. What I really love is the heart behind it. Throughout the Go Bible, kids are constantly shown how God transforms lives and how their lives matter in God's story too. With short devotionals, key verse challenges, real life application, and over 600 features that connect scripture to their everyday life, this Bible is going to help kids know God, grow in their faith, and go live it out. If you're looking for a Bible that helps your kids understand who they are in Jesus, check out the NLT Kids Go Bible. Head to kidsgobible.com to learn more. We'll put a link in the show notes.
I didn't think life could get any better. I mean, everything was like going my way. I was kind of touring a little bit, and I put out my first EP. It was really my second EP, I guess, but the first one where we were really going to try to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the songs on there got picked up by SiriusXM, goes number one at SiriusXM as an artist in like November or October of 2020. And then in November, I signed a record deal with Warner Brothers. And I mean, everything was just going so great.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was checking everything that I'd ever dreamed of was just getting checked off the list. And so just kept doing that and kept touring. And then over the last 5 years, I had two. I wrote a song called "Doing This" and a song called "Forever After All" with Luke Combs that were big hits for him and for me. They were my second and third number ones, and um, got to tour all over the country in 2023. Luke took me to Europe, and I did a European tour for an entire month. I lived in Europe for a month, touring with him and opening for him, and I lived on a bus with him and four of our other best friends. Um, and it was great, man. And in that in in Europe, um, I the Lord had began to like kind of stir in me a little bit, and I've been a believer since I was a young boy, but haven't lived like it. And I just thought that going to church was enough, and getting saved and baptized when I was a young kid, like that was good enough. And but the Lord began to stir in my life, and uh, that fall of 2023, I went to Europe with Luke, and um, God had begun to put my friends on my heart and my mind for their salvation. And
Mm-hmm.
I prayed, God, give me an opportunity while we're over here. And night one of a 30-day journey in Europe, night one, God gets brought up. And so questions start getting asked. And um, my friends had questions for me that I didn't have answers to, and
Mm,
I think that was okay, but to me, they were questions that, um, I should have known the answer to, or at least I should have been able to grab my Bible and take them to the answer, and I realized in that moment how childish, I was and how infant-like my knowledge of God and the Bible was,
mhm,
and I felt like a loser.
mm,
That I had not been prepared for this moment, for people that I love asking me questions and I was not prepared. And God began to really do a work in my life.
mm.
And um, I feel like I'm giving you so much. So at any
No, this
time
is
you want to
yeah,
stop
no,
me,
this is good.
uh,
I'll interrupt you for a
yeah,
second. So it sounds like you when you went to Nashville, it was like you had kind of grown up and singing gospel stuff, and it's like I'm going to pursue the country stuff.
yeah.
At that point, were you? Would you say? I think I heard you say maybe you were far from God, or you weren't really like living like a Christian. But then you went
Uh,
on when you went to Europe. God was starting to like kind of
yeah.
subtly draw your heart back,
I
and then
just
you had
wasn't
this
living
moment.
in the fullness of what God wanted for my life, you know?
Yeah,
I think everyone around me knew that I was a Christian.
yeah,
Um, but I was like team Christian. I was like team
yeah,
Jesus. Like
yeah,
I wore the jersey, wore the shirt, but like wasn't like really on the team. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, and so God really just began to, you know, prepare me. I honestly think, and two, I will say this: I don't think there's ever been a time in my 10-year journey in Nashville, and really my whole life. I mean, maybe there has, but I don't think that I've ever walked through a door that God didn't want me to walk through. Like that's always been really like I've prayed about every decision. Like when I was signing a record deal, I had been offered a couple deals from different companies and like I would pray about those and I don't think that I ever walked through a door that God didn't want me to walk through.
Mm,
Um but that also doesn't mean that I wasn't totally living out his will for my life
yeah.
or living the way that he wanted me to. But so all those things were happening. God began to stir in my heart and um then 2024 comes and like I'm really burdened for like how infant like my Christianity was.
Mm,
Like I didn't have great knowledge of the Bible. Like it was all a bunch of stories. Like I didn't know how they like I didn't know how to explain them in a way that like shared the gospel. Like the gospel, like Jesus is in the garden in the beginning, and so
mhm.
like how? Like if you would have asked me that a few years ago, I'd have been like, well, no, he what? Like what do you mean? Like
Yeah.
and so like I just had this infancy as far as my wisdom and knowledge, and so um I began to pray like, God, give me wisdom and knowledge, give me discernment, give me all the things, put people in my life. And dude, God started doing it. And so
Mm,
I started meeting with the men's pastor at my church on a regular basis, and began to form like real discipleship with men that I had never had in my life. For one, I mean, I toured a ton. Um, and two, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Georgia. Like, nothing against folks in the South, but discipleship was not a real thing. It was more like evangelism and like, okay, you got saved, now get baptized, now you're good to go. Like,
yeah.
instead of like this growing discipleship. And so,
Yeah, I'll just pause you there for a second and how much I agree with that, dude. Because I grew up on the West Coast. So I grew up in California,
yeah,
actually. And then I lived in Oregon. And then I moved to the South 3 years ago.
yeah,
So I live in South Carolina now. And I go all over the country doing men's conferences. And I will say the South is like notoriously one of the hardest places to engage Christian men.
yep,
Um, well, and Christians in general, but I work with men, but it's like there is kind of this mentality of like, no, dude, we get it. I've been doing this. My granddaddy was a
yeah,
pastor,
we're good.
and
a
yeah,
100%, man. And that, over the last, really over the last year, that like drives me nuts. In the sense of like, you start, like somebody finds out you're a Christian and the first thing they say is, yeah, I mean, my dad was a deacon at the First Baptist Church. I'm like, what does that mean for you
right. Who
though?
cares, dude?
Like,
Who
what does
cares?
that mean for you? Like, and
Yeah.
so, but dude, I mean, that was me. Like,
Mm,
I'm not like, um, I can't tell you how many times I would be like, yeah, my parents, they started a church with some folks or whatever. Like, that doesn't matter. That's not, and so, there was no form of real discipleship, but God began to put men in my life. Um, so early November, he puts the men's pastor at my church in my life. We're meeting on a regular basis. I'm on tour with Luke Combs at the time. I'm on a stadium tour, the biggest tour I've ever been on. We're playing college football and NFL football stadiums all over the country. And we played in Jacksonville, Florida at the stadium there, the Jaguar Stadium. And there's a pastor there by the name of Joby Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big country music fan. And he finds out that I had actually just read one of his books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and through a mutual friend, he had found out that I was a fan of his book and that I was going to be on that tour and coming. So he invited me to go play golf, and we just hit it off.
Mm.
And God began to put these men in my life. And then Joby's like, man, the next week he like calls me and he's like, man, I just feel like the Lord is calling me to like disciple you if you're open to that. And so for the last year and a half, Joby Martin has been discipling me, which is just
Wow.
insane. And
Yeah.
um, again, God began to put men in my life. And then and I will also say too, there was a moment of this, me having success, um, where God was pouring His blessing on me in so many ways, and but I had never given. Um, my parents were very faithful givers
Mm.
financially to the church.
Mm.
I had never done that. I was like, I can't like give this away. I worked hard for it. Like I need
Mm-hmm.
this, and so I was never a giver.
Mm.
And then the Lord began to like break my heart for that.
Mm.
Um, and I please know that if you're listening to this, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm here to show you what obedience does. And um, me and my wife had a great year in 2023, and I gave for the first time, and it was a lot of money. And
Mm-hmm.
um, God, I think God saw that obedience. And that's when God was like, okay, I think he's ready for what I have for him, and began to put these men in my life and
Mm.
prepare me for what he had coming. But I think it was really this initial act of obedience toward what God was breaking my heart about that showed him, I think that showed God that I was ready. Maybe I don't really know.
Yeah.
And so God began to put these men in my life again. And so then 2024, I'm on this stadium tour. I mean, life couldn't get better. I mean, this is the dream tour. It was the biggest country. It was probably the biggest music tour in the world that year, maybe
Mm.
beside Taylor Swift. And um, life couldn't get better. I mean, I had just put out a full length record at Warner Brothers. The record label was sending a song back to country radio. Like everything was awesome. I'm on this big tour. My fan base is growing. Everything's good. And but my heart just I just felt like God had something different for me, or I wasn't sure what it was, and I kept wrestling with this internally, not sharing this with anyone, um, but like fighting this internal battle of God, what do you want from me? Like I feel like I'm trying to be so faithful to my family and to my career, but like I was also holding on to my career, like, and I sensed God was wanting me to almost let it go, but like I couldn't, man. This is everything
Yeah.
I worked for. This is like how we make money. Like this is how I provide for my family. That's what I kept saying, making an excuse about, like, and ultimately I realized that I wanted fame and fortune more than I wanted to be faithful to God's calling and to my family. And um, finally, on December 1st of 2024, I'm at my church. I go to Long Hollow Church. My pastor is Robbie Gallaty in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And he's up there preaching, and he's preaching about the things that we take and the things that we don't take to heaven. And he's talking about the parable of the talents and gifts, and how what we do here on earth for the Lord matters. And that's how we store up treasure to give back to the one who gave us everything.
Mm.
And I'm like, what in the world is going on? What is happening? I mean, I was overcome, dude. And at the end of the message, I just pray this prayer silently to myself.
Mm.
God, I don't know what you want from me, I don't know what it is you have for me, but I sense that it's not what I'm doing right now. And God, whatever it is, I'm ready for it. But whatever it is, I need you to tell me in a way that leaves no doubt, leaves no question, leaves nothing for my imagination. I need you to tell me directly what you want from me. Amen. So that was December 1st, Sunday. I go home, normal day, like nothing out of the ordinary. Um, I'd tell no one that I've prayed this prayer. It was a, just a prayer.
Yeah.
And 5 days later, December 6th, um, my manager of 10 years of my music career, he's a big manager in country music. He manages Luke Combs and Flatland Cavalry and so many other
Mm.
artists. And he's been my manager for 10 years. He calls me. His name is Cappy. He's an unbeliever, actually.
Mm.
But the Lord's working on him. But this is over a year ago now. He calls me on a Friday, December 6th, and he says, "Man, I know that country music is your dream. It's what you've worked hard at. We've worked hard together." And he's just kind of beating around the bush. And at this point, I'm thinking he's about to drop me,
Mm.
which would have been an answer from the Lord too, I think. But I'm like, Cappy, what are you? Just spit it out, man.
Let's get to it. Yeah.
What are you trying to say? And he goes, "Man, I don't know how to tell you this, but for the last week, I've been waking up in the middle of the night around 3 o'clock with you on my mind. And I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm supposed to tell you that you're supposed to be a Christian artist and you're supposed to sing songs about Jesus."
Oh my gosh.
This is 5 days after I've just prayed a prayer. God, send
Sheesh.
me a sign, and whatever it is you want, I will do it, but I need you to say it as direct as you can. And my manager, who's an unbeliever, has been waking up in the middle of the night to tell me that I'm supposed to be a Christian artist and sing songs about Jesus. And I don't know about you, but there's no more clear. God can't be more clear. I mean, God has been known to make a donkey speak,
Yeah.
right? But like
Yeah.
my unbelieving manager has been waking, and so I tell him, I'm like, Cappy, what are you? And he's like, he thinks I'm mad at him, and he's like, well, I don't, he's like trying to be apologetic. I'm like, no, Cappy, you don't understand, dude. A week ago, Sunday, I prayed, God, send me a sign that I'm supposed to do something different. And you're telling me he sent you to tell me this? And he was
Crazy.
like, when did you pray this prayer? I was like, Sunday morning. He was like, that's crazy. Sunday nights when I started waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh.
And so, man, God has just been so sovereign on my life. And it's like immediately a, a switch was flipped in my life.
Yeah.
And the very next week, I asked out of my record deal, and the Lord has just provided over at this point, over the last year, a little over a year now, since that call from my manager. Um,
So
and
that's what you're doing now? Christian music?
so, yeah, so I'm still writing country songs. I'm actually currently, as I speak to you, um, I am a co-writer on the number one song in country music right now by Blake Shelton.
Mm.
It's the number one song this week. Um, and so God is still blessing my writing as far as the country world goes. But man, my mission on this earth is to tell people about Jesus and to use the platform that he's let me build over the last 10 years to tell people about Jesus and to sing songs about him and what he's done in my life. And so back in October, it took me about 8-9 months to get out of my record deal. And so I put my first song out back in October. It's called Blame Jesus.
Mm.
And it's the first song that I put out as far as the new stuff goes. But
Yeah.
this year I'll be hopefully releasing some more of that. And man, God has just been so good in my life. And it really just came from, you know, God showing me where I was, I guess I don't know how to say it better than just an infant in my walk with him.
Yeah.
Um, my sanctification has taken so long, and
Same, bro.
you
Yeah.
know, I hate that, and I would encourage people to like step into what God has for you. Like I've heard so many times, like what God has for you is so much better than what you think you have for yourself, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I had so much a death grip on not letting go of what I thought was gonna make me happy,
Mm.
which was fame and fortune and success and notoriety. And honestly, um, over the last year, I've kind of looked back, why did I think because when I got into music, I didn't chase fame and fortune and success. I loved music. So what turned and what made me wanna become those things, and I realized what it was. And I think there's so many men that are in this same boat. They have let something else that someone has said encourage them to chase something else. And so the reason that I started chasing fame and fortune and notoriety and success instead of just chasing why I love music was because when I started getting into doing music, I had so many people that would like say negative things or like um, say that I'll never do it or you know just say that I was never good enough, and I let that thing drive me. And the only way in my head, in my eyes, in my mind, the only way to prove those people wrong was to be famous and to be rich.
Mhm.
Because how else do I have proof that I made it
Mhm.
aside from being famous or being rich? I thought if I could be rich and if I could be famous, then those people that said I would never do it, they'll be proven wrong because
Mhm.
that'll be the proof that I made it is if I'm famous and if I'm rich. And so I let the negativeness of something and really Satan use people to change what drove me, which was fame and fortune. And um it took me a while to realize that, like, why did I want those things? Well, it was just to prove people wrong, and
Dude, I can really relate to that.
yep.
I had one guy tell me like his words were, "You're not as good as you think you are."
Mm,
And that was the lie that just like Satan was like, "All right, let's use that one," and it just gets you on this hamster wheel of like,
yeah, and then if you think if well, if I you know what? If I had the number 1 podcast
yeah,
or the number 1 book, whatever, it'll prove that guy wrong, and so
right,
you start instead of your heart putting out things just because they're positive. I didn't put out, but like the driving force behind it
right.
becomes proving someone wrong instead of helping someone walk in their light. So then your attitude starts to change. Um, and then the next thing you know, you've become someone that you don't even recognize.
Yeah, and I think some of the soil, if that lie is a seed, it's got to land in some soil that's
Mhm.
fertile, and some
For
of the
sure.
fertile soil for that lie to land on is like probably insecurity. For me, it
Yep.
was.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
I got some identity issue brewing, and so they tossed that little lie, that seed lie, and now it's like, all right, it landed on some good insecure soil.
Yep.
I don't know if that analogy makes any sense, but
Yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
and then it starts to grow, and then Satan, just that voice. I try to tell guys, like, just from my own story, like, is there a lie that you're kind of whispering in your head, or that you're allowing Satan to
Mm.
repeat over and over? And then whose voice is it? Like, where's that voice coming from? And when did you hear that lie the first time? And when did you start believing it? I think all of us are, in some ways, are motivated. I mean, Satan is like the father of lies.
Mm.
So it's like that the Bible says that's his native tongue, which I think is, Jesus actually called him that. He said, "You're the father of lies." It's his native tongue. He's been speaking it since existence. And so if he's just constantly lying, like asking ourselves as men, what's the lie we're believing? And I think so many of us, dude, are like, our lives are deeply impacted by a lie we're believing,
Mm.
in
For
our
sure.
career, in our marriage, in our identity,
I
all
mean,
of
that
it,
was the original fall in the garden,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Surely you won't die.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been his native tongue since the start.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's good.
Do you think there were some wounds that like, not, I mean, not to like get you too deep into your own
Yeah.
stuff, but like what soil do you think it landed on for you? So for when somebody says whatever negative thing, like what was the soil of your heart and
I
life?
mean, insecurity for sure, like,
Mm,
not thinking I was good enough or, um, you know, I always wanted to, um, I think, make my dad proud. I think some of it lies there, and I have great parents,
mhm,
um, but I think a lot of it was, like, just wanted to make my dad proud, and
mm,
why, I don't really know why that is. My dad was always there, so it wasn't like an absent father that I wanted to, like, recognize me. It
mhm.
wasn't that at all, and so I don't really know where that came from,
Yeah. You have
but definitely
siblings?
some sort of insecurity. I have a younger brother, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Was your dad, not to get in, I'm not a counselor, so I'm not like trying to, I don't know what I'm talking about, dude, but like, I'm just always fascinated. It's always
Yeah,
fascinating
for
how,
sure.
especially
Same.
because somebody would look at you and be like, even hearing you say insecurity would be like, what, dude, this guy
Yeah, yeah.
insecure, especially just like he's playing in stadiums. He's got
Oh
like,
man,
like this guy's struggling
it
with
it
insecurity. Are you kidding
man,
me?
it gets us all.
I
It
know,
it
man.
gets us all.
And it's like the thing none of us do. It's like our ultimate fear as men. I don't want to come across insecure to
For
any
sure.
guy. You know, like I don't want anyone to think I'm insecure
100%.
as a dude. But was he very verbal? Like, was he verbally affirming to your dad?
Um, you
Like,
know,
did you want him to say, "I'm proud of you"?
maybe, and I mean, he's definitely said that before.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is more on the quiet side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know what it was.
I
I
mean,
really don't.
the reality. All of our kids are going to end up in a counselor's office. You know, like
Oh, for sure,
this is a broken, sinful world.
for sure.
It doesn't matter. Like I've definitely learned like this is not a trying to find your own like healing and motivation for stuff is definitely not like a bash your parents. You know, it doesn't need to be
Oh,
that
no,
at
no, no,
all.
not
You
at
know,
all.
because our parents are broken and sinful like we are, and
Yep,
they're just trying to figure this stuff out too.
100%.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's so funny. And I'm not trying to plug a book here, but I'm going to. But
Plug it, man.
um,
What is it?
it's called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Do you know this book?
Mm-mm.
It's by Peter Scazzaro.
Hold it up so I can see the
This book.
cover. Okay, it's good. You're reading it. Sounds good.
It's unbelievable.
Really? What are you
It's
learning?
it's why you kind of learn why you are the way you are from a biblical standpoint. I mean I'm only like through the first 2 chapters so far, but like it's just so good. I mean,
Mm.
um this guy he's a pastor. His wife left his church.
Oh, dang.
Because, yeah.
Dang, that's intense.
Um the tagline is it's impossible to be spiritually mature while remaining emotionally immature.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
it's just a really good book, and it's like started to help me figure out why, like where some of this comes from. And I'm looking forward to like kind of journaling or getting through it. But like um, basically, there are 10 symptoms of emotionally unhealthy spirituality,
Okay.
and these are the 10 symptoms: using God to run from God, ignoring anger, sadness, and fear, dying to the wrong things, denying the impact of the past on the present,
Yeah.
dividing life into secular and sacred compartments, which I think I was really good at.
Mm.
Doing for God instead of being with God.
Yeah.
Like I'm so busy doing for God that you forget to spend time with Him.
Yep.
Spiritualizing away conflict, covering over brokenness, weakness, and failure, living without limits, and judging other people's spiritual journey. Like, well, I'm bad, but I'm not that bad. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting. I wonder what he means by the first one. Did you dive into that? Like what did he say?
Using God to run from God. Is that it?
Yeah. I wonder what that
That one?
means.
Um,
I think that as you're like flipping through that, I think that line being you can't grow. I don't know how he said it, like spiritually if you're emotionally unhealthy, bro. The amount of reality I've had to come to grips with of how emotionally immature I've been most of my life and how much that's impacted me and specifically my marriage. I was so emotional,
oh,
dude.
same.
I look back and I'm like, my poor wife, bro.
Yeah, same. I think I'm just now stepping into that realization. I mean,
Yeah, man.
I'm 34. I think I'm 30. I think I'm 34.
Well, I'm
Um,
38, so you got me beat by 4 years
um,
on that.
and so yeah, I think like holding in things instead of like talking about like,
Yeah.
man, dude, like what I feel like I've been so bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think I cared more about um being vulnerable, which I think that's the problem. I think one big problem with men is we're so scared of being found out.
Yeah.
Um, I
What did that mean for you? I agree with you, but what did that mean for you?
don't,
What do you say found out? Like, what do you mean?
any sort of secret that like I have like held on to forever. Like nobody will ever know this about me.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're like, well, if I even like kind of go down that road a little bit, it might get so vulnerable that that's the only thing that's going to come out, and I just ain't going to go there. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to take the first step, whatever it is.
Yep.
It could be something you did like shame and guilt. It kills us.
Oh
And
yeah.
so because shame and guilt kills us, because we allow it to kill us, we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
in conversation. And so that's why I think sometimes us as men have a hard time even like opening up to our spouses, like the one
100%.
person that we can trust the most, but like you're even scared to let them in on that secret or open that door and let them see those bones that are laying in the closet. You know what I mean? And so we have to get over that as men.
Yeah.
But two, it's kind of in our, um, especially in the South. I mean, I can say it in the South. I don't know about anywhere else, but I mean, I imagine it's everywhere. But like, we're tough, dude. We don't cry. We don't, you know, we deal with it, because we
Yeah.
can get through it because we're dudes and we're men and we're strong and we're tough and we don't do those things.
Yeah.
And so when any of that starts to flood in, we just run from it instead of like dealing with it.
Yeah. I think too with like the spouse thing, I think that there's a lot of the stuff that we're holding in, we know how much would hurt our spouse. So I do think there's a level of like,
Oh, that too.
I can't share this with this is out of all the people I could share with, this is probably going to crush her the most, for a lot of
Yeah,
stuff that
we're
they deal
scared.
with.
We're scared of what their reaction would be.
Yeah, totally.
Um, how are they going to handle this? You know, is this it? Would it be the beginning of the end?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I think most guys feel that.
If
100%.
if I bring this up, is it whatever it is?
Yeah,
Um, but that again, Satan, he's it's a lie from hell.
I
So,
agree.
um,
I've
we've
been
got
watching these. What was the last thing you said?
we've got to learn to just step into it.
Yeah, that's a huge faith, but
Yeah.
that's where God's goodness is like.
Mhm.
Ultimately, the line, the beauty, the gospel boils down to: Am I fully known and fully loved?
Mm.
And I am by God. And then how many other people fully know me and fully love me? It's like the more I am fully known and fully loved, the more of the gospel I get to experience in
For
real
sure.
life.
For
you know?
sure. Mhm.
And so you don't actually get all the pieces of that if you hold on. If you hold back, you have secrets, you have these little compartments.
Yep.
But it's really hard. Really, really hard.
Yep.
Dude, I've been like into these prison shows. I don't know why I like watch prison shows.
Okay.
I get
Well,
sucked.
give me an example.
There's one called, I think it's called Unlocked.
Okay.
They did a second
I don't
season
know
of
this.
this on Netflix where it's
Okay.
like they'll take the guards away in one pod of the prison.
Oh wait, I know what you're talking about.
Dude, it's
And they're
so,
like, if you act right, we'll let you
yeah,
do
you get some
this. Yeah, yeah,
incentives.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I get into it. And but for sure these dudes, I think it's because one of the things is these dudes try to act so tough. They have to for their survival. I
Mhm.
can't be seen as weak. I'm certainly not going to cry. I'm not going to like show any emotion
Yep.
because I don't have experience in this, but I imagine that's going to play out really poorly for you in prison. But in the end of these experiments, every time, bro, they're just like they're just little boys, or they'll go to do an interview off camera by themselves. And it's just like a scared little boy. You can see like a 10-year-old boy in this man who's
Mhm.
just scared, and he's just like he doesn't want to be tough at all. He just like wants to be seen and have friendships and be known. I'm just like, it just gets my heart, dude, every time.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's such a good example of this is how we all feel, like
Yeah.
we're all just
Oh,
trying to
for sure.
present ourselves to the world as like we got it together, and you pull us aside and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, bro. I'm a broken little
Yeah,
boy just trying to figure this out.
we ain't got it together,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I called our like local prison, and after I watched one of these shows, I'm like, hey, I want to come. Like I run this ministry for dads, and I filled out this application, and they just straight up declined me with like no excuse. And it was like that. I'm like, I don't know why that like messed with me so hard, bro. I'm like, okay. Like they're just like, no thanks. I'm like, okay, all right. Like, is it me? Like it played, talk about writing some stories in your head, believing some lies, bro. I went down some
I know,
weird.
right?
I'm like, all right.
Dang.
Has your wife she respond to all this well? Like
Oh, yeah.
getting out of the Christian, or getting out of the secular music, kind of pursuing Jesus? Like what was her response?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome, I mean, we've been super, I won't say super involved in our church because I toured so much, but, like, we were when I could go, they
Mhm.
always would go to church, and when I could go, I would go. But that's what's kind of been awesome about the last year. I've kind of come off the road,
Mm.
and so getting to be involved back in our church every Sunday as a family has been awesome. But man, her
Yeah.
reaction was great. It's kind of funny. Right before my manager had called me, um, not knowing that he was about to call me and tell me this, I had literally just told her maybe 20 minutes prior to him calling that if my current single at country radio as an artist, if it started to kind of like not do good or kind of had hit a stall, that I was probably just going to be done. And
Mm.
then 20 minutes later, my manager called me, and we were both in the car. We were actually Christmas shopping, when he called, and dude, we just sat in the car, and I just cried. And
Mm.
I mean, it was honestly one of the greatest moments of our marriage, just to like to feel the sovereignty of God
Yeah.
together in one moment. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
I had her on speakerphone because he's like rambling. And so I'm like, maybe she'll know what he's trying to get at. And so I put it on speakerphone, and then like he says that, and it was just like, oh my gosh. Um, and so no, she's been super supportive. Um, and I don't know. It's been, it's interesting because I don't know what God's plan is.
Yeah.
I think God's will for my life is to be doing this, but what is His plan next? I don't know. I've had the opportunity to do a men's conference down in Jacksonville last year, and I'm going to be doing another one
Mm.
in Nashville this year.
Mm.
And so, really, honestly, that it's kind of that excites me to maybe do some men's conferences and
Mm.
be a part of that. But I don't know. I just
When you say do them, what do you mean? Like perform or?
perform, and
Okay.
if they want me to tell my testimony,
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to do that. Do some like, um, I think one of them I'm going to be doing like a little roundtable discussion or a panel or
Sweet.
something like that.
Sweet.
But yeah, to play kind of lead worship, and then maybe tell my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just man, I want men to step into what God has for them, and to take God serious. Like
Yeah.
that's for so long I haven't taken the Lord serious. Like when He says go and make disciples, like that was a command. You know what I mean? Like that. And so to not be doing that is in my opinion, to not be living out the great commission that God has commanded us to go do.
Yeah.
And so um for so long I have been a team Jesus, wear the shirt, sit up in the stands.
Mm.
Um and listen, let's cheer on the team, like go team. But if the quarterback were to get hurt in the game and the coach turned around and looked up in the stands and he's like, "Man, we need somebody, can you come?" I would have to go, "No," because at the time, I mean, now I could, but at the time I didn't know the playbook, and I
Mm.
felt like such a loser because of that. And so, and I think there's so many men who we check the box, and um, we don't pick up our cross daily, and like that is God says, wake up and pick up your cross daily. And listen, God gives new mercies every day for those things. You know what I mean? We can't even be like, we shouldn't even be worried about tomorrow because God hasn't even given us the mercy for tomorrow yet. Like
Mm.
that's kind of crazy to wrap your head. Like new mercies come every day. And so um pick up your cross, follow after Jesus, live in today and what He has for you. And let's I mean the whole, and that's why I'm honestly have a heart for men, is because I think if the men in the households change, the households change, right? Because men lead. And so like if we want to see change in the world, it starts with the men, because that is God has put that in us. He put it in us from the very beginning to love and to lead well. And um that's why my heart is for men. And because I truly think that's where we change the world.
Yeah. I agree with you, bro. Dude, this has been a really fun conversation, man. I'm grateful for your story. It sounds like, from my perspective as an outsider, it sounds like God was kind of shifting things around in your life so that He could really snatch your heart. It sounds like there was a big like flag moment when your manager called,
For sure.
But from my perspective as a new friend listening from the outside, it feels like you're literally on like lap one of a
Yeah,
very long race.
for sure.
And like his goodness, what you thought was, look what God has done, has literally just started.
Yep, for sure.
That's what it
And
feels like
there's
to me.
so much freedom in that. And
Hmm.
I feel, um, I feel like an idiot that I didn't see that, like, all the times that I've heard, what God has for you is so much better than what you think you have for yourself. Like, how many times I've heard that and just going, "Well, you don't know what the plans that I have. You've never
Right,
seen where."
right, right.
I mean, I'm dreaming of all these things, and, like, just, like, I promise you what God has for you is so much better.
Hmm.
And there's so much freedom in that, and I have felt and, tasted the goodness in that, and what he has had for me, and it looks so different than where I was at, but, um, man, I'm so grateful for it. I'm so thankful for what he's done in my life, what he's doing in my family, and my kids, that I now get to be the dad of 2 girls and encourage them and raise them in what Jesus has done for us all.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any greater joy than to be able to do that. And so, man, I don't know what God has for me. I think instead of, I think a lot of times in life, we as Christians, we sit back and we look at this wall of doors and we're like, all right, God, if you open a door, I'll walk through it, and we sit back and we're like, "Oh, there's a door," and then we walk through it, instead of walking up to every door and knocking on every
Mm,
door and then seeing which one God's opens, instead of sitting back. Like,
mm,
let's not sit back and wait to find an open door. Let's go knock on every door.
mm,
And that's what I have, like, kind of found to be my plan for what God has for me, is to knock on
mhm,
every door and see what he has for me. Um, and then just to walk in that.
mm. Bro, I appreciate your humility so much,
Oh,
and your desire to make the name of Jesus great and to share your story. You've brought me closer to Jesus, man. So I'm
oh
really
wow.
grateful to have this conversation
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking the time. Again, I just want to make the name of Jesus known. Like, that's it. And that's what's been so great, is like when I told when all this happened and I told my team, like, listen, I understand that, and my team has been my team for, some of them have been there for 10 years, some of them for 5. Um, like, what we've done over the last 10 years trying to promote me as an artist, like, those days are over.
Wow.
We're promoting Jesus, and, like, I'm just the one that has the platform and gets to go do it. This is not about me. This is
Mm,
all about him. Every decision is about making the name of Jesus known, not making my name known. And that's been a fun gear to step into and to change,
mhm,
because it's honestly, it makes it so much more fun.
mm,
Um, like, I used to hate doing, like, TikTok and all that stuff, but, like, now, man, like, to really share the message of Jesus when I'm making social media or doing that, has made it so much more fun.
mm.
And again, that's just another sign that, you know, what God has for you is so much better than what you could think, because I never in a million years thought I would actually enjoy that. But, um, to be able to do that and share the name of Jesus, and what he's done in my life, and carried me through and pours out his blessing on me, is just more than I could ever dream of.
Yeah, dude, your passion for the Lord and wanting to see his kingdom expand is contagious. It really is. It's
Yeah.
like makes me want to like
Well, man,
go do something.
well, I have a desire. Really, I mean, I have so many friends that, like, I think somebody told me this, and this is, I've heard this said a few times, but, like, imagine getting to heaven and your friends are standing there and you're walking in and they're not walking in, and they're looking at you like, what? Wait, you didn't, you didn't tell, you didn't tell me about this.
Yeah,
Like, why didn't you tell me about this?
right.
And imagine walking shoulder to shoulder with people throughout this. I mean, life is short, and so imagine walking arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder with men or with anyone, um, and never telling them about Jesus. Like, that has become so important to me. Like, that
Mhm.
is, and it was important. It's the last thing Jesus commanded us to go do before he went to the
Mhm.
cross. Like, go and make disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so I've just I have become so passionate about that, that it is literally the driving force for everything that I do now. And so, um, I appreciate you taking the time
Yeah,
and
dude.
let me share that.
Yeah, dude. I think the reality is we talk about what we love, and
Yep.
I just want to love Jesus more. And then
Yep.
you don't have to really like. You meet people who can't help but talk about Jesus because they just really love him. You know,
Yeah,
they're not strategizing. It's just like
for
they
sure.
really love him.
Yeah.
They really love him.
Yep.
And I sense that in you, bro. I sense
Well,
that in
thanks.
you.
I appreciate it. I
You
hope so.
know, and people will talk about the things they love. That's why you want a real litmus test for guys. I always say, like, ask your kids what do they think you love,
Wow.
and you'll kind of learn your idols real quick.
Yeah.
That's a scary proposition. But anyway, all right, bro. I'm gonna let you get back to your family. I'm so grateful to meet you, man.
Dude, you too. Thanks for the time again. I appreciate what you do, for men, and hope that we can, do this again sometime.
I would love to. Yeah,
Let's do
I'd
it.
love to.
All right.
All right, man.